Morrell, who I really wanted to write about above all because I felt I very often am driven by the sense that people have been misunderstood or undervalued, and I felt that more about Ottoline than almost anybody else. And I think happily that's the case where I can say the public perception of Ottoline has moved since my book, which is a very nice feeling. Anyway, Ottoline was a very good person, which makes her sound boring, which of course you know she was not. And she is therefore, very annoyingly, my touchstone. She's my conscience. And what I was saying to Susanna was that yesterday I was thinking about something I particularly don't want to do. And I said to my husband Ted, "Oh Christ, Ottoline, I know what she would tell me to do." And it's always the thing I don't want to do, but she would do it. And I have to do it because Ottoline would reproach me inside me if I didn't.
That's a wonderful idea of people changing you and sort of shading your life in that way.
Ottoline I knew about through my family because she was related to my mother, who was rather proud of having a resemblance to her and the same quite long jaw and nose. And so I knew of Ottoline myself as somebody who was not ridiculous. And I then came up against the image that the world had of her, which was started, I think, by David Garnett and Virginia Woolf, and there's wonderful witty letters in which Lytton Strachey and Virginia Woolf would kind of, like a shuttle door almost, they'd throw to and fro these images of Ottoline and add a little bit and add a little bit. But it was for fun among themselves, it wasn't for the public view. But it was so irresistible that it became the public view. And she had been besmirched by it. And there was a degree to which Ottoline, because she did look extraordinary, she was 6 foot, she wore elevators inside her shoes to make herself even taller. She had her hats and her costumes copied from wonderful paintings in the Prado and places like that by her dressmaker Brenty. Ottoline never had any money. It was one of those families where the money all went to the brother, the Duke of Portland. Ottoline got nothing. Interestingly, her mother even left her no money because, yet again, she was meant to marry somebody rich, but she didn't. So the dressmaker ran Ottoline's dresses up, as I know because I've worn them, on absolutely the thinnest of seams. They're practically splitting apart. Everything was for theatre and for show. And when you look at them, you can see the hem is just like that. And the shoulders, she had tiny little shoulders, so when I say I could get into them, it was a great squeeze to do so. But they were all for the drama and the performance. So one can't really wonder that people responded to a woman with flaming red hair, a voice that went up and down like a kind of sighing duck, and looked at times utterly ridiculous. So they mocked her. And that's what I wanted to rescue her from.
And the thing that fundamentally in your book changed my mind, particularly about her, was the correspondence with Russell, with Bertrand Russell,
Yeah.
which was a complete revelation. It was so intellectually equal.
Yes.
And so intense and lasted such a long time.
It lasted until her death. Russell still, after marrying Dora, was there. I think he came 2 days before she died to visit her. It was a lifelong, respectful friendship. And it's very interesting that Russell never saw anything ridiculous in Ottoline. He was intensely irritated by her religion, and she was very angry that he had none. And so Spinoza was the point they met on. They found that they could both kind of handle Spinoza. But they are wonderful letters. Half of them are out in Austin, the other half are out in a place I wouldn't want to go to again in a hurry, which is Hamilton, Ontario, which is kind of a grim place to be. The wind is always howling and the ice is always hanging, and it's very, very grim. I don't think Ottoline and Russell would have liked it at all. But that's where Russell's letters are. And they do make up this equal-voiced correspondence. Well, quite often, as I was saying about Ottoline, she has a very strong moral conscience, and she became, like it or not, Russell's conscience. And in quite comic situations, when after she and he had ceased to have a relationship, he, as you know, went through women like a bag of snakes. I mean, just one woman, another woman, another woman. And Ottoline was very much the one who had to pick up the pieces. I can't remember which of the young women she had to have actually living in the house with her and explain to her that Russell had now found somebody else. And then write Russell letters and say, look, you've got to do better than this. She's absolutely broken up, come round and talk to her. So Ottoline's role was extraordinary, and realising all this, my respect for her grew and grew.
There's actually a real physical component to this, because I was very struck. I didn't know that you tried on Ottoline's dresses as well. Did you feel, and what did it feel like physically? Did you feel your body changing as you were? I mean, it's almost like putting on a mask. You know, when sometimes in theatre people put on a mask, and it has an extraordinary effect because the whole composition of people's bodies change instantly.
No, because my body is such a different shape to Ottoline's, and I was doing it with her grandson. I was frankly just terrified of splitting one of the scenes because she was so slender. And I didn't at any moment feel like Ottoline. But the one moment, I knew exactly what you're talking about, I think, because there was a moment when I looked into the speckled looking glass, which had been in Mary Shelley's travelling case. And to look into that with my face looking back through a speckled glass so you could barely see the reflection, that was, I think, as you're describing. And they also, I mean, it's very, very hard work writing biographies. There's a hell of a lot of the time when you're just sitting on your own, writing it badly, writing it too novelistically, whatever. But there are also these extraordinary moments like that make everything worth it. It's just fun.
Since we're talking about place and Lady Ottoline Morrell, assume you know she lived a few doors away, which is actually was the offices of Michael Joseph, where I used to work as a publisher when I was in publishing. And I mean, whenever I come to Bedford Square, I always think of her.
I know.
And so I just wanted to mention that, because
I know
when it comes to place, you know, the two are very closely associated.
Oh, I used to at one point be published by Michael Joseph, and I know exactly what you mean, because I went in there looking eagerly, and there are little bits of it that still linger on. So,
Exactly, it was very intense.
yeah.